It is 1943, and the world trembles beneath the weight of an unending war. Europe is a map of shifting front lines, and in London the air crackles with a sense of both exhaustion and desperation. Hitler's armies dominate the continent, and the Allies are preparing for one of the most ambitious invasions of the war, the strike into southern Europe. Yet the success of the invasion depends on a single impossible task: convincing the Germans that the attack will come somewhere else. In the dim offices of British naval intelligence, amid cigarette smoke and murmured code names, an idea emerges. One that borders on madness. What if they could trick the enemy with a corpse? The concept is chilling in its simplicity. A dead man, dressed as a Royal Marine officer, would be allowed to wash ashore carrying false documents suggesting an Allied invasion of Greece. If the Germans took the bait, they would divert their forces, leaving the real target, Sicily, vulnerable. It was a deception so audacious, so morbidly clever, that it seemed more suited to fiction than to war. Yet this was the war of deception, where spies, double agents, and misinformation were as lethal as bombs. As the plan begins to take form, a strange sense of unease fills the air. The officers behind the idea, sharp minds cloaked in irony and fatigue, know they are treading a moral line. They are about to give life to a man who never lived, to breathe purpose into death itself. It is the birth of a phantom, a weapon made not of steel or gunpowder, but of story. The deception has begun to whisper its first breath, and soon the ghost they have created will walk the shores of Spain. In a quiet corner of wartime London, behind locked doors and guarded hallways, a corpse lies waiting. To the world he is no one, an unclaimed body of a man who died alone. But to the British intelligence officers gathered around him, he is about to become something extraordinary: Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. What follows is a haunting exercise in invention, where every detail must convince, every illusion must breathe. The officers of MI5 and naval intelligence begin their meticulous work, not with weapons, but with imagination sharpened by necessity. They construct a life from fragments: a photograph of a fiancé, a handful of love letters written in fading ink, a bank statement, a theater ticket stub, a letter from a father expressing pride. Each artifact placed carefully into his pockets, as if by fate. His uniform is pressed to perfection, his hair trimmed, his shoes scuffed just enough to suggest of a life once lived. Even his official papers, identification cards, receipts, and an engagement ring receipt tucked deep in a wallet, are part of the theater. Nothing is left to chance, because chance itself has no role in deception. The masterminds, Ewan Montague and Charles Cholmondeley, are consumed by their creation. Their humor grows dark, their nights long, their consciences restless. They know this mission dances between genius and sacrilege. They are giving a dead man purpose, and perhaps rewriting the rules of espionage forever. In that dimly lit office, the boundaries between life and fiction, truth and lie, begin to dissolve. And then, at last, the moment arrives. The papers sealed, the name recorded, the uniform buttoned. Major William Martin exists. Soon the sea will become his accomplice, and the truth will begin to drown. Dawn breaks over the southern coast of Spain. Fishermen haul their nets through the mist when they see something drifting near the shore: the lifeless body of a man in a British officer's uniform. Within hours, the Spanish authorities arrive and word spreads quietly through diplomatic circles. The man's name, according to his papers, is Major William Martin. To the British, he is a ghost carefully placed by design. To the Germans, he is about to become the most valuable corpse in Europe. Inside smoky offices in Huelva, Axis spies and Spanish officials sift through the contents of Martin's briefcase. The waves have carried their message, and the illusion has found its believer. July 1943. The Mediterranean roars with the engines of war. Allied ships stretch across the horizon, a steel armada slicing through the dawn toward Sicily. Above the waves, planes hum with anticipation. Below deck, soldiers clutch their rifles, unaware that their lives hang on a single lie: the deception of Major William Martin. In Berlin, Hitler has already acted. Convinced by the forged documents, he diverts vital panzer divisions north to Greece and Sardinia, leaving Sicily thinly defended. The dead man's story has done what entire fleets could not. It has bent the mind of the enemy. As the first Allied troops storm the beaches, chaos erupts. Machine guns rattle, sand erupts under shell fire, and the air fills with smoke and shouts. Yet beneath the thunder of battle lies a quiet truth. This victory began in the shadows. Historians would later call it one of the most successful deceptions in military history, but for those who fought, it was simply survival. Letters from soldiers tell of disbelief at how easily the Germans were caught off guard, of an invisible hand guiding their fate. Back in London, the architects of Operation Mincemeat received the news with restrained disbelief. Montague and Cholmondeley exchange glances across a table strewn with classified files. They've done it. Their ghost has won a war he never fought. But in their silence lies something unspoken: the awareness that this triumph was built upon death and deceit. As the smoke clears over Sicily, the scale of the operation's success becomes undeniable. The island is secured, and the road to Europe stands open. But as the Allies celebrate, a question begins to linger. What happens to a man who never truly lived once his purpose is complete? The war would end, but the ghost of Major William Martin refused to fade. In the years that followed, his grave in Huelva, Spain, became a site of quiet pilgrimage. Locals tended it with flowers, unaware that the man beneath the soil had never truly existed. His epitaph, "Greater love hath no man than this," stood as both tribute and irony. For decades, no one knew the truth, that the body buried there belonged not to a decorated officer, but to a homeless Welshman named Glinda Michael, a man who died alone in London and was reborn as a weapon of war. When the truth finally surfaced years later, it shocked even those who had celebrated Operation Mincemeat as a masterpiece of espionage. Beneath the brilliance of the deception lay uncomfortable questions. What does victory mean when it is built upon illusion? Can a noble lie ever be truly noble? The story of Major Martin forces us to confront the human cost of deception, not the loss of life, but the manipulation of identity itself. Modern historians trace the operation's legacy through the decades, from Cold War propaganda to 21st century information warfare. The tools may have changed, but the principle remains the same. Truth, in the hands of power, is as malleable as clay. Major Martin's invention was not merely a wartime tactic. It was a preview of a future where belief itself could be engineered. As the film closes, the camera lingers on the waves of the Spanish coast, where the story began. The sea rolls endlessly, as if still guarding its secret. The narrator's voice fades into the wind, calm but haunting, reminding us that in the theater of war, it is not only the living who play their part. Sometimes the dead, or even those who never existed, leave the deepest marks on history.